Hello, Kay here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my father, Mr. Albert Lee Green. The picture in the background that you see here is a picture his best friend painted, my Uncle Lindy. Uncle Lenny and my father were very close. They spent countless hours together. Uncle Lindy had a little girl, and my dad had a little girl. So they would take the children to the playground, to the park, and they got a chance to talk and have some really terrific conversations. Years later, my Uncle Lenny brought me some pictures of my dad, and he asked me to choose the one that I wanted him to paint of him. And I chose a picture, a black and white picture, of my dad standing by a tree. And through the eyes of the artist, this is the picture he came up with. For days after he delivered the painting, I couldn't look at it. It was just too painful. My dad was a dad who had his hands on his children. He did not leave it up to anyone else to take care of us. He took care of us himself. And he took pride in his three little girls coming to his job in the afternoons to find out what was hidden in Daddy's shirt pocket. It was a game we played. My dad took us on trips to Coney Island. He took us shopping. He did so many things. He was 31 years old when he passed, and I was 7. I last saw him in the hospital Thanksgiving Day, and he motioned for me to come over and come closer, and my feet were frozen to the floor. I couldn't come over. It sounded like my dad, but it didn't look like my dad. And eventually I did go over, and he gave me a kiss, and he had something on his face, and I got a tissue and I wiped it off. And the tears just streamed down his eyes. And I kept saying, don't cry, Daddy. It's okay. It's okay. It'll be all right. Because you said that girls need their father. So it'll be okay. And the more I held his hand and I told him it'll be okay, the harder he cried. I kind of knew that doing this video, I'm going to try to do it in 2 parts because it's not easy. When someone shows you love and they are there for you, it's an unforgettable experience. Right after my dad's funeral, the very next day, I couldn't understand why they put him in a hole. I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't know what death was so permanent. And my mother, she said something vulgar to me, and she said, "Don't you dare mention his name in my house ever again." And she had my sisters watch me. And if I was outside and I started to cry, they would go and tell my mom. And she would call me indoors, and she would just start beating me. And I asked my 2 oldest sisters, well, Daddy was good to you too, right? So how come you're not sad that he's not here? And they said, don't worry about it. Just do what Mommy says. And I did try to do what she said. I did try to forget about him. I did get on the swings in the playground and swing as high as I could. And my sister said, "I see you're crying. You have water in your eyes." I said, "It's because I'm going so high. I'm not thinking about Dad. I'm not doing that." So it's just me swinging so high. But I was crying. I was 7 years old, and I wanted my dad. I missed him. He was an intricate part of our lives. So talk about being bullied, right? But even in the midst of all of that, I still I started writing little poems and little letters to my dad. But I would always tear them up and throw them in the trash before I got home because I didn't want anyone to look in my book bag and find out that I was writing little love letters to my dad. I'm going to stop for a minute here.